We begin with a scam that is hitting our area hard, and it seems to be getting worse. Innocent people hit with unemployment taxes on funds that were stolen. Some are now being told they owe thousands of dollars. It's a story NBC10 response team has been following for months.
I just want my name clear.
The past 7 months have been one frustration after the other for Bill Johnson. The problem, hand-delivered to his doorstep, time and time again.
I just shook my head and said, this is unbelievable.
He received dozens of fraudulent unemployment payments that he never applied for to his single-family home. One had his name on it. The others are all for other people.
He received $6,380.
He doesn't know.
It was like 87 of them. I got a Richards, I got a Bell, a Coke, I got all kind of names here.
We first told you about Bill's problem in July. He'd reported the fraud to the Pennsylvania Department of Labor and Industry and U.S. Bank, which issues the payments. But Bill kept getting more money and more problems. NBC10 Response followed up with PA, LNI, and the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice flagged the U.S. Department of Labor Office of Inspector General, which told us it was investigating the fraud. The payments finally stopped. Bill tells us he thought the problem was behind him until this letter showed up in his mailbox. It's a 1099-G form stating he must pay federal taxes for $10,000 worth of benefits filed in his name. He is adamant he never collected those benefits.
Why are you doing this to me? Who has my Social Security number?
Bill reached out to NBC10 Response wanting to know what could be done to clear this up.
I want to know, do I need to get a lawyer?
We took Bill's problem to the State Department of Labor and Industry and asked what Bill should do. It told us he should report the fraud to them. But remember, he did that months ago when he started receiving the payments. The department went on to say LNI will flag these claims for investigation and notify the IRS if an adjustment is needed. Acting Secretary Jennifer Barrier addressed the topic at a recent news conference.
Once you have completed the fraud form, you can disregard the 1099-G form and use your real income when filing for taxes.
But the IRS tells us you need to take things a step further.
What you want is a corrected form a corrected form 1099-G. And that way the IRS gets that same form as well as you.
IRS spokesperson Rafael Tolino tells us you should get the corrected 1099-G after you report the fraud to the state. But according to PA-LNI, because of the volume of fraud, not all individuals will receive updated 1099-G forms by the tax filing deadline. In this case, the state and the IRS have the same suggestion.
You can still file a federal income tax return. Report only the income you received on that return.
One final step may help separate you from the fraudsters.
Consider an IP PIN. An identity protection PIN will help you separate you from the bad guy when we get your return and start to process it. It's a one-time number used every year on your return.
You can request that PIN on irs.gov. As for Bill, he's reached out to Philadelphia Legal Assistance. The organization provides free legal aid to qualifying residents. He tells us they're looking into his case and he's hoping for some accountability.
Somebody got to come out here and solve this problem.
Joining me now from Philadelphia Legal Assistance is Julia Simon-Mishel, supervising attorney for their unemployment compensation unit. Julia, thanks so much for being here.
Of course, thanks for having me.
So I'm not sure if you could talk about the specifics of the case, but can you walk us through what you would do to help somebody like Mr. Johnson, or what you were able to do to help him?
So the first concern for someone like Mr. Johnson, who has received a 1099 with information about benefits they never received, is to confirm that the government knows Mr. Johnson didn't file that claim, right? That the government has marked that claim as fraudulent. And for a lot of people, like Mr. Johnson, they responded when they first got a check or a debit card or something like that earlier in the year and reported it. So luckily for Mr. Johnson, the government had noted already that it was fraudulent, but yet the 1099 was still issued.
And we've heard from a few viewers as well, and that can cause some panic when you get a tax bill for something that you were never paid for and you never applied for.
Fortunately, the IRS has issued a statement. They are aware of this issue, and the Department of Labor and Industry here in Pennsylvania is aware of it, and they have given instructions for what people can do when they receive these 1099s for money they never filed for.
So it's not an isolated case by a long shot.
By a long shot. Unfortunately, there was this kind of massive criminal conspiracy fraud in mostly the pandemic unemployment assistance system. That's what we're talking about here, not regular unemployment compensation. And so there are a lot of people getting these 1099s out of the blue, some of whom may not have received any notice prior to this, that a claim was filed on their behalf. So this might be the first time they're discovering it. So for those individuals, they need to go online at uc.pa.gov, and they can report the identity theft and the fraud to make sure that the government is aware of that. And our understanding is that once a claim is marked as fraudulent, that at some point the department will issue a revised 1099-G to that individual that shows no benefits were paid to them.
And that's what you have to file with your taxes. So you're going to have to, if you're getting your taxes together, that's what you have to wait for?
So actually, the Department of Labor and Industry and the IRS commissioner have instructed individuals in this situation to go ahead and file their taxes and not include the 1099-G, not report it as income, and wait for the revised 1099-G to have in their file if for any reason the government takes a second look at it. Now, that's easier than trying to report it and explain that you didn't receive it, but it certainly is not comfortable for a lot of people who are very worried about getting audited by the IRS in this situation.
My guess is your job at Philadelphia Legal Assistance has to do, in the unemployment compensation unit, has to do with getting people their money. In this case, were you surprised? Wait, there are people getting money that didn't ask for it, but now they're being asked to pay taxes for it.
It's unfortunately something we have seen quite a bit of during the pandemic, with people coming to us who have discovered that a claim has been filed in their name. Oftentimes people who need to file their own claim, and they can't do it in the pandemic unemployment assistance system because there's already a fraudulent claim in their name and somebody else getting money. And so there's definitely some frustration on behalf of workers that people who are part of this kind of criminal conspiracy network are getting paid, and yet thousands of people who are eligible for benefits have not yet been paid by the department.
Very frustrating. So again, walk us through simply, if somebody gets this form suggesting that they got unemployment compensation when they did not, what should they do?
They should, if they have not already, go online and report the fraud and the identity theft at uc.pa.gov. Then they just need to hold the 1099-G. They do not have to submit it with their taxes or report it on their tax return, and wait for the revised 1099-G to come in the mail that should show that they actually did not receive that money. But the important thing is to make sure you have reported the fraud to the government. Unfortunately, there's not going to be any confirmation sometimes that the government has received that and has noted the fraud, but unfortunately that right now is outside of people's control. What they can control is that they contact them and they keep a record of that contact.
Thanks so much for being with us today. We appreciate all the advice.
Of course, always happy to help.